An alarming percentage of young people and children have been victims of abuse at some stage in their lives. South Africa's crime stats sadly indicate a gap in child protection. Let's look at some of the risk factors that lead to child abuse with Mike Bolhuis from Specialised Security Services. Mike, I appreciate your time. Now, the statistics that we understand are somewhere in the region, I think, of 40% of all young people having been abused at some point in their lives. What do you think are the underlying factors contributing to such a high incidence of child abuse in South Africa? Obviously, that statistic is correct.
I would say the biggest problem is ignorance, illiteracy, the fact that our South African population is not fully aware of, first of all, the problem, how to deal when there's such a problem, how to deal with it, and how and to whom to expose it. And then lastly, there is a very big shortage of authorities being involved and being willing, able, and capable to deal with this problem. It's a massive problem in our country, and the statistics is totally wrong. It's much more, because most of these cases, most of them, aren't reported.
Now, when you speak about ignorance, would you care to elaborate on what this actually means?
Well, the most important thing is information. If everybody knows exactly what it's about, then you can do a proper identification, evaluation, and a risk analysis of any situation. It is not there. There's a lot of people that is not really and fully aware of what is abuse, child abuse. And it becomes the norm. It becomes accepted. So it should be taught in schools. It should be properly explained on a constant level on TV. It should be brought to the nation, to its doorstep, in any which way and form, in such a way that it enlightens everybody. What is it when this happens, and what do you do, and what do you do about it? For instance, if you neglect a child, it's also abuse. It's also child abuse. If you harm a child, it's child abuse. If you rape or molest a child, it's child abuse. If you do not follow the rules and regulations that the government has set in place pertaining taking your child to school and giving it all the necessary medication that it needs, etc., etc. All those is factors of child abuse. It's neglect. And the problem is, as I've said, number one is people aren't fully informed, and then actually number two, the authorities do not really deal with this matter. They cannot really deal with this matter, and it's been neglected for a long time.
Now, the Children Act of 2005 makes it mandatory for certain professionals to report child abuse. How effective has this legal requirement been in ensuring timely reporting and intervention in cases of child abuse?
It's not effective because when there's child abuse, one of the first reasons why it's not reported is because the family, if they know of it, wouldn't want that stigma and wouldn't want that reputation where they are. They would try and hide it and try and deal with it. But, you know, if you deal with situations like that, you would see that it's reoccurring because crime begets crime. If abuse is in a family, any form of abuse or any form of crime, anywhere, if it's not dealt with immediately and correctly, it will escalate. Crime begets crime. So it is a massive problem. Any sexual crime, for instance, very few of them, maybe 1 in 100, will come forward because they are ashamed. It's very traumatic. It affects a whole family and maybe a community. So those who are involved with this would try and keep it under the wraps, hide it from everybody, and try and not have it exposed or dealt with in any way. And that's why I say most of these cases, not many, most of these cases never comes to light or are reported.
Now, child abuse often occurs within families or by individuals known to the child. What strategies can be employed to encourage victims or witnesses within the family to report abuse without fear of reprisal? And that's something that you touched on moments ago.
It's a very difficult question to answer, but hopefully our small chat and the fact that we are available and that everybody, every household, anybody that has knowledge and a bit of information should go out of their way and do a bit of an inspection, maybe get involved with people and families where you think something like this could be happening, and enlighten the people, assist the people. And if this is identified, to identify the correct authorities, those who are willing and able. Look, our biggest problem is authority in this country. The police is 80% corrupt, unfortunately, and that does not necessarily mean selling a docket. It means they aren't able to protect and serve. They aren't interferers. They don't get involved. So then to get this family and the people that you know to the correct authorities to have this known and dealt with. You must also understand the extreme intimidation that goes along with this abuse. You know, children are threatened. If a child is, and it becomes the norm, if a child is being abused, the child is constantly said, if you say a word, this will happen. And the kinds of threat is numerous to mention here, but it boils down to extreme intimidation, and the child just takes it, bears it, and this becomes the norm. And as I've said, crime begets crime.
So, Mike, what conversations should we as parents or guardians be having with our own children in order to certainly equip them with the skill set to either protect themselves or to report any advances that anybody may make towards them that might have a nature of sexual abuse or any form of abuse?
That's a very good route to go, is to have a very good relationship with your kids. And that's another problem. If you're a strong family and you've got good kids and you are good parents and there's a proper relationship and you as the parents are the go-to guys for your kids, then your kids will tell you what's happening in school and which children are abused, which have got marks on their bodies, those even who are raped and molested, and those who are traumatized and intimidated. They will come forward and tell you as parents, and then you as parents can step in. As I've said, the unfortunate thing is very few people know how to handle these cases. At the end, you need a top expert units, and thousands of these units are necessary in our country, because remember, this kind of abuse is enormous in our country. It's everywhere, from the smallest form of abuse to the biggest. And there's a lot of them, if not 50 to 60%, is sexual abuse, is child molestation, is child rape, and it happens. But unless that's there, that relationship is there in a family, and the family don't see each other as go-to guys, they won't be able to identify it, and they won't come forward with the information. They'll just be on their own, don't want to be involved or get involved, which is another problem, because if you do not know how to handle these cases, all this information and what to do about it, and that's where I say the illiteracy and the ignorance in these matters, then people just look after their own families and they move on and they don't get involved.
Mike Bolhuis speaking to us about child abuse and maltreatment in South Africa.